So I want to make sure that I frame this the right way, because both the companies that we joined, so we merged Leadfeeder and EchoBot to create Dealfront, right?
Mm-hmm.
And both companies had data and were by themselves data driven, but by putting the two of them together, we lost some of that. And I think that's kind of why I thought this would be an interesting thing to talk about, because that's not that common, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as we put two companies together and truly made it one platform, we also needed to merge where our reporting happened and user tracking and all those kinds of things. Now on EchoBot, we were using Kibana. On Leadfeeder, we were using, we had the data in Tableau, or like in a data warehouse there. And we decided to pick that infrastructure going forward. But that meant that, like, for example, when we moved things over from Kibana to the data warehouse and the reporting environment we had there, we ran into a few issues. One, it wasn't that easy to get the history in, so we lost a lot of the history. Second, and especially if you're thinking about details, right? So if you, like, we have our target solution allows you to search the market, find companies that you want to engage with. And so you can do different searches, very complex searches there. And we would have the data in there, like what kind of searches are people doing? Are they just looking for industry employee size, or are they searching the website of this company, right? And that data we just didn't have for a while anymore. So we lost some insight in how people were using our products. Now, you could think maybe not that much changed during that time, but of course you never want to have a data gap like that. You don't want to get caught by surprise, right? So that was one part. And the other part was that the way that the reports in Tableau were being created was that we had analysts who would do that, right? So almost every new insight into data, even if you just want to pull like a one-off report, would be a request. You would have to ask someone to do that for you. So it wasn't self-serve, simply said, right? And yeah, that was one of the big improvements we made, was that we then introduced another solution where we could have more self-serve reporting. So we still have Tableau for the kind of confirmed company KPI reporting, the things that everybody should have access to.
Right.
And then we're using at this moment Metabase for where anyone who has access and knows how to work with it can go in, pull
their reports.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we are using Metabase as well, and that makes sense. So maybe a follow-up question here is that time where it was kind of like a dark spot of like missing this data for this certain time, did that create any like delays, or did it affect anything for go-to-market, or like what happened during that time?
I think the main way how it affected, and that was of course only one example, right? And it happened across multiple places. The main way it affected is that we just weren't aware of certain things that were happening, right? And we just didn't have insight. And if it's like, I don't remember what the exact saying is, but if it's something around like, if it's not tracked, it's not done, right?
Yes.
And so that, right? So it means there were no numbers, so there was no focus on certain things, because we couldn't say how it was doing. We could just do a qualitative assessment. Of course, if we would see or if we'd hear from a customer that something required attention, we would of course action that. But we wouldn't have like the quantitative data across thousands of customers. Like, hey, how is this performing right now?
Yeah,
I think that is a big that was a big problem, actually, to not have certain metrics for a while that we knew previously were important to us. And another thing that happened, which might be an interesting example, is one of the metrics that we look a lot at the Leadfeeder side is if people are installing the tracker, right? So Leadfeeder identifies the companies on your website. So you need to install the tracker, else we cannot do anything for you.
Right.
So it's a core metric. Like, if that doesn't happen, nothing else happens after that.
Right.
And when we launched the platform, it just plummeted. Like, it just and we made a few changes. We thought they were minor. Apparently they were not, right? And in the sign-up process, and people just out of a few-step process, suddenly they just weren't getting there anymore. And we had even a sales assist motion on that. So actually, we had salespeople that would reach out, "Hey, can I help you with anything?" And even like just like very bad. Like it really like I think I don't remember the exact number, but it was like less than a third of what it was before that. So and that took us a really long time to figure out what had happened there. And that was not because we didn't have the data, because actually we did. But so many things had changed, so many little things, that we didn't know anymore what had caused this drop, right? And it was and it turned out to be like the different brand we showed at the top of the website that confused people, like this really small funny thing that you didn't even think of during a product release, right? And that that was quite a journey to find out what was causing that. It took us much longer than we thought it would. So for a long period of time, the main way that we would do that if we didn't have the data would be to talk with customer success, because that's those are the people that are talking with customers all day, and we would use it to prioritize where we should put our focus. And also, if we would have new ideas or we wanted to change something, we would check there, like, hey, instead of running an A/B test or something like that, we would say, hey, this is the plan. What do you think? Are there any customers we can talk with? Things like that. So yeah, for a long period of time, CS. Then that's a good thing to do regardless, even if you have data. I think it should always be part of the routine. But only by itself, it also gives you a too biased view, is what we learned at some point, right? So you do want to have your own data reference points, because else logically, there's a lot more recency bias, right? If people run into an issue a lot in the last 2 weeks, then that is the issue they're going to refer to when something happens, when they're asked, right? Whereas if you maybe look at the last 4 months, there might have been like bigger problems that we should be looking at. And that's the balance, kind of. In the end, you'd want to solve both problems, right? But still, that's I think after we had done that for a while, we realized the next iteration for the parts, because there's parts where we're just not always going to have all the data, or we don't have enough customers to get to quantitative data, right? For some of our higher tier products. And there we still need to rely on that, and we need to kind of find the right combination there.